Would you stop playing with that thing? It's distracting.
Oh, I like being big.
Distracting. Hello everybody, Sheriff Stephen J here, and I'm back in Florida at that plant I was at not too long ago. It's that plant that takes lobster shell that's been munched from the state of Maine and they bring it here to be processed. Now this plant is a fully operational terminal. And they terminal all kinds of stuff here, all kinds of material here. Now to me, it looks like clumps of dirt, okay? They call it material, and last time I was here, they didn't have all that much of it, but this time it's loaded with it. And to my left are just mounds and mounds of calcium silicate. And calcium silicate just happens to be the name of the corporation that owns the plant. So, why am I here? Well, updates. That's right, we have updates about what they're doing with the munched lobster shell that they get from the state of Maine. Now remember, that lobster shell contains a natural compound. I'm talking about chitin, which is an essential ingredient contained in the lobster, crab, and shrimp shells. This compound helps hold the shell together and strengthens the shell. And it has antifungal properties as well. And it is not harmful to humans or pets. Chitin also absorbs water and is a natural odor reducer, making it great for kitty litter and other applications, such as the absorption of metals and construction site water runoffs. That chitin product is brought here, where chemists turn that chitin product into another product called Chitosan. So how exactly do the chemists convert the chitin to Chitosan?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I have a set of samples here, and what we start with in the feed is a specifically sized lobster shell. Okay. Now that lobster shell is raw lobster shell that's been dried and sized. After we receive it, we do a process that we call deprotonation. Now the protein is the fats and the meat and the material that's still left on that shell. So we purify it by removing extra proteins that weren't taken out of that feed material. Then we remove the inorganic part of the lobster shell. And those inorganics consist mainly of calcium, magnesium, and some of the 10 major elements. And we end up, after that part of the process, with a pure chitin. Now that pure chitin goes to another step which we call deacetylation. Now what we're doing there is removing with an acetyl group from the chitin. At this point, we have a high molecular weight chitosan. Now, from that product, we can make a low molecular weight chitosan. But that involves another process.
So let me get this straight. You have two products here. You have a high molecular and a low molecular chitosan. Okay, after your additional step to make the low molecular chitosan, what happens then?
Then the material is rinsed, then dried. Now it's a very delicate part of the process because if you go to too high of a temperature, you degrade the goodness out of the chitosan.
So basically you're taking away the beneficial properties of the chitosan.
Absolutely. So,
you're burning it.
Well, you could. If you don't do it correctly, yes.
All right. Well, were you taking notes? As you can see, making low molecular weight and high molecular weight chitosan is not an easy process, and it is costly. And the low molecular weight chitosan is more for medical applications and that type of a thing. So they don't really concentrate on that here. They concentrate on the high molecular weight chitosan. However, if you want the low stuff, you can order it here, and they can make it here. However, you have to have a formula or a recipe to make it. And that's why I'm here today. After 2 years of costly experimentation through trial and error, hard work and constant testing, the recipe and process required to make both low and high molecular weight chitosan at this plant has arrived. This natural and environmentally friendly product is now ready for implementation. But where should we start? Let's see. We are in Florida, and they got that red tide here, so why don't we start with the red tide? So what exactly is red tide, and what exactly is the role that chitosan plays in treating it? The red tide are harmful algae blooms, also known as HABs, which occur when colonies of microscopic algae that live in the sea and fresh water grow out of control and produce toxins which kills fish, shellfish, marine mammals, and birds. These toxins taint the water and become airborne when they are at the surface. The name red tide comes from the fact that overgrowth of algae can cause the color of the water to turn red, as well as green or brown. A bad algae bloom will not only smell bad enough to dissuade people from even going to the beach, but can also cause breathing problems to swimmers that inhale the toxins. Other symptoms from coming into contact with the red tide are skin irritations, rashes, and burning or sore eyes. One of the best known HABs in the nation occurs nearly every summer along Florida's Gulf Coast. However, certain human activities are making them more frequent. This includes fertilizer from farming, chemicals from factories, sewage treatment plants, and other sources that become dissolved in water on the land. This water, called runoff, eventually flows into the ocean, feeding the algae and causing it to grow faster, which creates the red tides. Red tides can last a few weeks, or in some cases remain visible for over a year. Many red tides will subside before reappearing again. Florida red tides, they're very common, and the duration of these red tides depends on several variables, including biological, chemical, physical, and ecological factors. The water currents also impact how long red tides last, and its toxins are able to move in the air for up to a mile, meaning that even if you are not right on the shoreline, you can be impacted. HABs are a national concern because they affect not only the health of people and marine ecosystems, but also the health of local and regional economies. But fear not, because when the red tide is treated with high molecular weight chitosan, it kills it. How does it do that? Well, chitosan is a natural attractant to the algae. It's also a flocculant. So it attracts the algae, it clumps it together, gets heavy, drops to the bottom of its water source, and it's deprived of light and oxygen. And it kills a red tide in a matter of days. Simple. Except chitosan is very expensive to produce. So this Florida plant adds a less expensive flocculant to a lesser amount of chitosan, which gives the same result, killing the red tide, but at a much reduced cost. This saves money, but you have to know the recipe of what percentage of chitosan to add to the flocculant in order to maintain the attractant properties. This process is nothing new and has been used in China for years. The methodology has already shown proof of concept, which has been acknowledged by HAB-CTI, which is the Harmful Algae Blooms Control Technologies Incubator, who are under the partnership of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science at Institute of Marine Environmental Technology, and the Moat Marine Laboratory, which is located here in Florida. The only thing new here is that this plant in Florida has taken the initiative and the money to figure out the recipe and the process to make the chitosan. So what's everybody waiting for? I mean, there's no need to be wasting more money on research here. We know how to get rid of or kill, or for a nice word, mitigate the red tide problem. Leonard, would you please stop playing with that thing?
It's so fun. I don't feel so good. Well, it was fun while it lasted. But where are my clothes? I feel so naked and afraid. I'm so hungry.
It looks like whatever Leonard ate in the lab the last time we were here finally wore off. Now, where was I?
I believe you were saying it was time for lunch.
Wow, that was fast. And no, I wasn't. I was about to tell everybody about the machine you're sitting on. Enter the Mitigator. Now, the Mitigator is the vehicle which will be used to distribute the solution onto the red tide and get rid of it. It was created here at this plant. Now, this is a two-man operation. It's pretty easy to use. And as a matter of fact, is there anybody out there that would like to try? Oh, I got some. Come on. Oh, come on up. These two volunteers are going to demonstrate the unit and how it works. Now, to my left, you have a pool of green algae. The solution not only kills red tide, it kills all kinds of algae. It'll kill the green algae as well. So we're gonna spray it on the green algae, see what happens. Now we have a hose going in to the water source that will suck out the water to the bottom here. And we have our flocculant, we're gonna use kaolin, dropping down. It mixes into a slurry with the water and it goes to the last tank, the mitigator tank. And then the chitosan will mix with that. And now you have your solution that we will spray on this green algae. Now we have 2 distribution cannons, and there you have it. And there it goes, right there. There they go. And it'll start back and forth, back and forth. And you can, make it go further, make it come closer, the spray. Pretty cool, huh? Now, the reason we're using kaolin as our flocculant, which kaolin is a clay, is because it's readily accessible here at the plant. It is stored in 2 large silos. Each silo has a capacity of approximately 8,000 cubic feet of storage. Now, there's a rail car unloading mechanism to transfer bulk solids to the silos utilizing a bucket elevator. The mitigator can be placed on a barge and not only used on the ocean, but in the estuaries as well, to kill off the red tide food sources before they enter the ocean, because those food sources makes the red tide even worse. And for those out there not wanting to learn how to operate this piece of equipment, the plant here will provide a crew to operate the mitigator for you. And it all began with that munched lobster shell that comes from the state of Maine. It's amazing. Well, I better go now. I gotta feed Leonard before he eats something else around here he shouldn't. But we had a happy ending here. The good guys, Chitosan, wins over the bad guys, the red tide. Great, and thank you for joining me. Let's go, Leonard. Maybe we'll go have some lobster tail.
Oh, brother.